I'm Rashonda. I'm the creator of this YouTube channel as well as the artbyro.com website where you can find over 200 drawing tutorials, all sorts of things on there. They're great for beginners and there's pretty much anything on there you might be looking for. So check that out, but don't forget to watch the video first, of course. In today's lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to draw a sunflower. And this is just one of many, many ways that you could draw a sunflower. My hope is that it gets you started and encourages you to do your own artwork. So let's go ahead and go on over to the art studio and get started. In today's video, I'm going to be drawing a sunflower. There's a lot of different ways to draw these. I'm going to show you one way. What I like people to do is to try something. Maybe you follow a tutorial, a video or something online, and then try it for yourself, but then push yourself to try something different and to experiment and see what else you can do with that drawing to make it your own. So when I'm showing you how I do my drawings, it's just one example of the many, many, many ways you can do this. So we want to start with the circle for the center of the flower. And just try to do the best you can to make a nice circle without stressing out about it too much because we want our artwork to be fun. And then we want to make some petals coming off of it. Look a little bit like a bunny ear, I guess you could say. And then just keep doing that all around the flower. And you can overlap them. You can make some bigger, some smaller. They're all basically going to be that same type of a shape. And then if you wanted, you could even put some back behind there. Again, there's a lot of different ways you can do your sunflowers. And if you go off the edge of the paper, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Just fit what you can on your paper and let it go off the edge. It's not going to hurt it. I'm doing mine on an artist trading card. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I like doing them on artist trading cards. One of the reasons, there's many, but one of the reasons I like doing my drawings on artist trading cards is because I can put them in binders and I have a nice little portfolio of my work, and then if I want to trade them, I can go ahead and trade them, or I can just keep them. So I'm going to fix that petal. I didn't like how that looked. So that's it. You're just going to go around the circle, making your petals. And then for the inside, again, there's a lot of different ways to do this. One way is to make some lines going across. You want to curve them a little bit. Make some more lines going across. And then we'll put some dots in here for some seeds. So the next step is to outline this, because I'm going to color it in markers. You can use whatever you want. If you don't want to color it, you don't have to. You could shade it with pencil. So I'm just going to go around this circle with the pen, and I'm using a Sharpie pen. You can use whatever you want. You could try making your outline a color. You could do brown or yellows, whatever you think is going to look good. And normally what I'll do a lot of times is when I'm drawing something, like I'll pick a topic like the sunflower, and then I'll do a series of 7 drawings over the week, which is another great benefit to doing the artist trading cards because they're smaller. It saves time and you can do more drawings in less time. So I'll often do a series of 7, and then what I do is I try to push myself with each one and come up with something different or try something new. Try to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. And you can play around with colors, you can play around with composition. There's a lot of different things you can do when you're making those series of drawings. And then if you do the artist trading cards, it saves a little bit of time, and it makes the possibility of doing a series like that more possible, more likely that you'll follow through with it. So I'm just gonna put some dots in here. You can do all the sections, you can do some of them, doesn't really matter, just do whatever you think looks good. And then we can add some little lines in here, some little folds in the petals themselves. And you can do them the same, you can do them different, it doesn't really matter. Again, just do what you think looks good. It's always a good idea to experiment a little bit, try new things. We could stylize this a little bit by going around the outside of this. We can add another line going around here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just adding a little something to it to see what it looks like. I'm just showing you some different ideas. You can include them in your drawing, don't include them in your drawing. But we're just trying to add a little something to make it as interesting as possible and to try something different. So this isn't something that I normally do with my drawings, but I've seen different artists that do this a lot, and I like how it looks. I think it just kind of takes it to the next level. And then we can also do, let's do some leaves in here. So if I look at my overall drawing, I can decide where I want some leaves to go. I might put one in here, and you could do this with a pen or you could do it with pencil. It doesn't matter. The choice is yours. It just depends on how comfortable you are with what you're drawing. And I'm going to put another one over here. You can add as many as you want or as few as you want. Again, your choice. Do one right here. And then the other thing that we can do is just add some little like vine, little swirlies that look like some vines sticking out. We want to go over our leaves with the pen. And just same thing we did earlier. And then whatever else you think might want to go in there. So that's pretty much it for the drawing. So the next step is going to be to use a block eraser, clean all the pencil lines up, and then use some markers to give it some color. So I will be back after I grab some markers. I have my markers picked out. What I like to do, usually because the artist trading cards are a little bit smaller, is I'll pick out 2 colors for each section. So I have for the inside where the seeds are at, the middle part of the flower, I'm going to use some browns. So I have 2 different browns. And what I do is I test them on a scrap piece of paper first, because I want the 2 colors to blend as smoothly as possible. But they also need to look different enough that they don't blend completely in with each other. So they got to be close enough, but far enough apart. So it's a little bit of a tricky balance to find. So then what I do, if I'm doing a bigger picture, I'll usually choose 3 markers. But for something like this, like the artist trading cards, I'll do 2. And then what I typically do is take the lighter color and I will fill this in. Even though I know I'm going to be covering it up with the darker color, I still like to put a layer of the lighter color down because it gives me a little bit more options for where to put the darker colors. And there's different ways you can do this, but typically what I'll do is I'll do some darker around the edges and then where the lines are at. And you could do, if you wanted something a little bit more realistic, you could figure out where your light source is coming from and do all that, but I'm not too worried about trying to make it look realistic. I create art because I find it relaxing and enjoyable. I'm not worried about selling my work or not trying to be a famous artist or none of those sorts of things. I consider myself a hobby artist, which means I create art for myself and for my own purposes. So I'm really just trying to have fun, relax, do something I enjoy. And if I get too worried about things and stressing out about the outcome and things being perfect and all that, then it makes it not as enjoyable. So a couple things with the markers. I'm using alcohol-based markers. To blend them, you need to make sure you're working while they're still wet. And then, as you can see, I put the lighter color down, then I do the darker color, and then I do the lighter color again. You could also use colorless blenders. Usually if you buy a set of markers, they'll come with a colorless blender. I don't use those too often because, as you'll find, or as you already know if you use markers, you have several of them laying out on your desk or whatever you're working from. And sometimes it gets a little confusing when you're grabbing. I've grabbed the wrong marker plenty of times. So having extra markers on the table can lead to the chaos, I guess you could call it. So I try to not have a bunch of extra markers laying around. So I'll just keep going back and forth with these. So you want to work while the markers are wet. It's not going to hurt anything. If I go over top of that other color with this marker, it's not going to ruin this. It's not going to pick it up on the tip of the marker and mess this marker up. So you don't have to worry about that. If you prefer the colorless blender, that's fine. Either way works. One thing to know is that as you layer your markers, they'll get darker. So that's just something to keep in mind. If I put this yellow down, let it dry a little bit and go back over it again, it's going to be slightly darker than the first time I put it down. So as you're going back and forth with your markers, that's something that, just to keep it in mind. It's not super important most of the time, but it is something that you need to know that it will darken it as you go. And sometimes that matters and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on what you're doing, what colors. Some colors it's more noticeable than others. Another thing I get asked about is what brand markers. And I have a lot of different brands. Right now I'm using these Bic markers, mostly because I want to use them up. For a while they were kind of my go-to marker, and I do like them. The odor's not real strong. They have a pretty good selection of colors. The bad thing with the Bic markers is that you can't buy just a single color, and you'll use more. There's certain colors that you'll use a lot more often than others. So when you buy the set, you'll have a bunch of markers that you use periodically, and then you'll have a set of markers that you use regularly. And what happens is when one of the markers runs out, you have to buy the entire set again to get that color marker. You can't buy, or at least I haven't been able to find where you can buy just a single specific color with the Bic. And there are other brands where you can just buy however many you want of one of the color markers. So I'm using the Bic today, not because they're my favorite. They're fine. They don't bother me, but as the colors are drying up and running out, I'm not going to be buying more of the Bic markers. And on that note, I've had most of these markers for many, many years. I took a break for a while where I was super busy with my day job and I didn't really have time, or I wasn't making time. I wasn't prioritizing my artwork, and they sat for quite a few years. I also have used them quite a bit, and they're still good. They're still going strong. So the markers do last a very long time, which is nice. But another thing, as you can see, I'm using, this one's a Sharpie now, and Sharpie are probably my least favorite markers, mostly because I don't like the smell of them. For whatever reason, Sharpies have a lot stronger smell than the other markers do. But as you can see, you don't have to stick with just one brand. You can use different markers together, which is nice. They're all, as long as they're all alcohol based, they'll work together just fine. So I'm doing the same thing with the green as I did with the browns, as I did with the yellows. Putting my lightest color down, taking a darker color, adding some darker, and you can do this however you want. Like I said, I don't think about light sources and realism and all of that. That's just not my thing right now. You could do yours more realistic with the lighting if you wanted. I'm mostly just trying to make it look less flat. I think it's more interesting when you use some lights and darks together. It adds a little bit to it. Again, I'm just showing you one way to do something. And then from there, my hope is that you experiment and try some different things and come up with your own ways and your own ideas. So that's pretty much it. You can touch up anything that needs touched up a little bit. And then the final thing that I like to do is I will use this white Jelly Roll pen, and I'll add some white in here. So I can add where the seeds are. And again, I'm not thinking about a light source or anything like that. I'm really just trying to break up these big blocks of color. So I'll put some white in there. And then I might put some white in the petals. And you can do each petal, or you could do just a couple. You can do straight lines, you can do squiggly lines, you can do dots. There's just so many different ways that you can go about doing things. And the way I'm showing you, like I said, it's just one way that you can do it. I'm not saying it's the best way or the right way. My goal is just to get you to get started, try something, hopefully inspire you to take action and create some art. And then do your own thing with it, hopefully. So that's it for the sunflower drawing. If you wanted to, you could add something on the outside here. There's a blue marker that I really like the color of. It's kind of this turquoisey, bright blue, and sometimes I'll go around the outside edge with that just to add a little something. You could color in the background. I'll go ahead and I'll show you with this blue. And this is Arteza. So yet another brand of marker. And this I bought because I didn't have any really good blues that I liked. And you could buy these in, I think, packs of 3. So I bought a couple different blues, and I really like this. Is just like an accent color. One thing I want to mention about the white, the jelly roll, if you use it while the marker's still really wet, it will absorb into the moisture in the paper, which it doesn't really hurt anything, but you won't be able to see it as much. So you do want to make sure your marker dries a little bit. And if you put the white down and you find that it's absorbing in and it's not very easy to see, then all you have to do is just wait a minute, let it dry, let the alcohol evaporate out of the paper, and then go back over it again and it'll show up better. And the alcohol, it doesn't dry really quick, but it also doesn't dry really slow. It's important if you are wanting to blend your colors together that you work in sections, as you've seen in the video where I was doing one petal at a time. That's just to make sure that the alcohol doesn't evaporate before I can blend my colors together. But that's it. So this one's done, and there's many different ways you can do them. This is one way to hopefully get you started to make some drawings, and then experiment, try them on your own. And I will see you in the next video. Happy creating! That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a like. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to get notified of future videos. Also, check out the description box. If you're interested in learning more about artist trading cards, there's a link in there for that. And there are some other informations in there that you might find useful. So don't forget to check out that description box. And don't forget to give us a like. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!